First off, I want to say thank you to everyone who viewed my MLB Portrayed by SpongeBob videos. I did them just for fun and expected only a few thousand views, but in no way thought they'd attain a combined 94,000. I didn't produce any new content afterwards because I went through some major changes in my life, but that officially ends today. With the new baseball season on the horizon, there was no way I could keep my mouth shut and say nothing. Thus, without further ado, here's the National League half of my preview for the 2018 MLB season. Hope you enjoyed the transitions between the teams too.
We're having so much fun. Doesn't that make us winners?
Off-season international signing controversy aside, the Braves are still built very well for the future. The hiring of Alex Anthopoulos as their new GM stirs lots of intrigue, and the hype of its highly touted pitching prospects is growing each year. A playoff berth is not likely, but the fans have a lot to look forward to. Just hope that Freddie Freeman will have a few prime years remaining when that time comes. Really can't wait for Ronald Acuna's MLB debut, too.
Thirty, you're fired! Go on, scram! Get out of here, you moochers!
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Exhibit A for why the MLB doesn't work in Florida. As if drawing crowds to Marlins games wasn't already hard enough, the work that Derek Jeter and his ownership group have done has only made the situation worse. With the majority of their big-name players now gone, the roster is almost bordering on AAA level. Although the prospect hauls and the trades have been less than stellar, Fort Lauderdale native Lewis Brinson will be one to watch. Other than that, brace yourselves, Marlins. Have fun with constantly low attendance and the city of Miami continuing to hate how you run your business. After spending 2017 doing their best Mr. Glass impression, the Mets are set to return to their playoff potential. The hiring of Mickey Callaway to be their new manager should boost the already forceful rotation. That is, of course, if the core guys can stay healthy. The signings of Jay Bruce and Todd Frazier also bolster a lineup that thrives best when Yoenis Cespedes and Michael Conforto are both at 100% health-wise. Again, this is a team that best plays when key players aren't injured. If they can manage to overcome that feat, expect them to be in the thick of the wild card race come September.
We saved the city!
When the Eagles won the Super Bowl in February, it was the first championship for Philadelphia Pro Sports since the Phillies' 2008 World Series title. The Phillies, however, haven't had a winning season since 2011. That might change soon, though. With the exception of Aaron Nola, Philadelphia didn't have any quality starters, but that outlook became better after signing Jake Arrieta. Adding first baseman Carlos Santana also gives a great veteran presence to a promising young lineup headlined by Rhys Hoskins and Odubel Herrera. Before their surprising amount of free agent signings, I expected the Phillies to place 4th or 5th in the division. I'd say they're now poised for 3rd, and possibly 2nd if the Mets make an unintended Mr. Glass sequel. Lastly, don't forget that they're going to bust the bank on next offseason's free agent class. Like it or not, competitive baseball is close to returning in Philly.
Why does this keep happening to me?
The phrase World Series or bust is going to get tossed around all year in DC this year. The Nationals are no doubt the favorite to win the NL East for the 3rd straight season, but there's also a lot of uncertainty following season end. This is possibly their last hurrah with Bryce Harper, and the same goes for Daniel Murphy, Gio Gonzalez, and maybe even their longtime GM, Mike Rizzo. In his first season as new manager, Dave Martinez is under strong pressure to lift the team from the DC sports curse, but he does have a better bullpen to manage than Dusty Baker did for the first half of 2017. Their top prospect, Victor Robles, is also dangerously close to reaching the show for good. DC sports fans have been through enough heartbreaking losses over the years. Hopefully that ends this October. The World Series hangover took another victim last year in the Chicago Cubs. The team struggled mightily in the first half but returned to 2016 form after the All-Star break, only to then get pulverized by the Dodgers in the NLCS. Theo Epstein and Jed Hoyer knew they had to reload, and they did it by boosting the pitching staff with Tyler Chatwood, Steve Cishek, and supposed new closer Brandon Morrow. They then went for the jugular in February to ink Yu Darvish on a 6-year contract. The youthful lineup led by Chris Bryant and Anthony Rizzo is still in place through at least 2021, so the Cubs aren't going away anytime soon. The same also goes for their fan base invading the stands of every away game. At least they'll guarantee the only sellouts this year at Guaranteed Rate Field. At this point, the Reds should just hang a help wanted for pitcher sign outside Great American Ballpark. With the exceptions of Luis Castillo and Raisel Iglesias, the rest of Cincinnati's pitching prospects have not panned out as well as they had hoped. Offensively, they will be fine because of how hitter-friendly their ballpark is. Joey Votto is also showing no signs of slowing down his torrid pace. However, he sooner or later is going to be past his prime, and it's a shame to see his past 3 incredible seasons wasted with no postseason berth. A message to the Reds front office: please spend more to improve the roster. The man deserves so much better.
Oh, my head.
Before the start of last season, the Brewers were widely predicted to endure another rebuilding year. They went on to shatter those expectations by finishing only one game back for the second wildcard spot. Knowing they are now set to compete for good, the team signed Lorenzo Cain and traded a number of prospects for Christian Yelich. They also added several low-cost pitchers, but the depth they provide isn't anywhere as strong as it should be for a playoff contender. It also doesn't help that Jimmy Nelson won't reportedly return until after the All-Star break. And while the offense is quite solid, they need to drastically lower the strikeout numbers. Despite all those open ends, the Brewers appear to be back in business. Milwaukee, you can now return to party drinking rather than doing it in sorrow.
You'll never get a cent out of me! Never!
When your team appears in 3 straight wildcard games but loses the final 2, you'd expect ownership to reload and try to get over the hump. When your owner is Bob Nutting, that unfortunately isn't going to happen. After trading Garrett Cole and Andrew McCutchen, the Pirates are poised for a season in the basement. This also couldn't have come at a worse time when their attendance has dropped by 500,000 over the last 2 years. David Freese hit the nail on the head for the current state of the team, and both Nutting and GM Neil Huntington are one more stupid move away from officially becoming baseball's real-life version of Dumb and Dumber. Pirates fans, I feel your pain, but at least you still play at one of the MLB's sexiest ballparks. And you have a lights-out closer in Felipe Rivera. That's at least something, right?
Soiled it! Soiled it!
The Cardinals have hit a roadblock by missing the playoffs for the last 2 seasons, a streak that hadn't occurred for the team in a full decade. They surely don't want to be the Cubs' bitch for a 4th straight year, so they made an upgrade in trading for Marcell Ozuna, which gives them both a critical middle-of-the-order bat and a neat starting outfield of him, Tommy Pham, and Dexter Fowler. A more underrated catch was the acquisition of reliever Dominic Leon, who came in the return from the Randall Grichuk trade with Toronto. He's going to be critical for a bullpen that lost both Juan Nicasio and Trevor Rosenthal. And I know pitching coach Mike Maddox won't hear this, but Alex Reyes has a lot of potential to be a good Andrew Miller-type reliever until he's healthy again to be a starter. The rotation as usual is solid, but the Miles Mikolas contract could really go either way. Consistency is key, and St. Louis could really use it this year. Regardless of how their season pans out, the Cardinal way will show its head again and showcase another star that they drafted in a late round.
Why is it so hot in here?
I certainly didn't think the Diamondbacks would excel as well as they did last year. The offense was as hot as the average Arizona summer, and the pitching was dynamite with Zach Greinke, Robbie Ray, and Taijuan Walker all putting up brilliant numbers. Losing JD Martinez in free agency to the Red Sox certainly stung, but they made some solid mid-tier pickups in catcher Alex Avila and outfielders Gerard Dyson and Steven Souza Jr. As good as Arizona is, team control is running low on a number of key players. AJ Pollock and Patrick Corbin are in the final year of their contracts, Paul Goldschmidt will be a free agent after 2019, and pitchers Ray and Walker will hit the market after 2020. The time for the D-backs to win is definitely now. The last thing they want are several failed playoff runs that result in Chase Field returning to the abyss it normally was. Similar to Arizona, the Rockies defied expectations and put together a stellar season. The young pitching rotation won more often than not against the Coors Field effect, and the same offensive core they had last year is back for another run. However, like Arizona, their odds at long-term playoff contention are hinging on the future of several important players. Chuck Nasty and DJ LeMahieu are in contract years, and stalwart third baseman Nolan Arenado is currently set to hit the market after 2019. The team's future payroll will also face some limits from their extravagant spending spree to build a super bullpen. Colorado will be asking a lot from their young starters to maintain similar stat lines from last year, and the same for the offense to produce as well if not better on the road than it does at Coors. Hopefully the Denver thin air doesn't run the table more often than the roster does. Despite their humiliating loss in Game 7 of last year's World Series, the Dodgers are fully prepared to try and win it all again. High team payroll aside, they are expertly built with the perfect mix of seasoned vets and incredible youth. The depth of the Major League roster needs no introduction. The few big questions that face the Dodgers are Clayton Kershaw pitching injury-free, Alex Wood being successful in pitching exclusively from the stretch, and Cody Bellinger avoiding the dreaded sophomore slump. Otherwise, good luck to the rest of the National League taking out this juggernaut. They all still look forward to how you'll choke again in October. For a team that was expected to be the worst in the league last year, the Padres somehow won 71 games, even with an offense that ranked at the very bottom in a lot of offensive categories. Although they're viewed as a joke by most teams, the haters might start shutting up sooner than later. GM AJ Preller and his scout team have built the top-ranked farm system in the league, which includes 6 prospects in the pipeline's top 50 list. Preller also went the extra mile by signing Eric Hosmer to the largest contract in franchise history. A lot of people are split on the decision, but I think Hosmer's presence will provide great veteran leadership for a fairly young roster. There's also the underrated signing of Japanese submariner Kazuhisa Makita, who has a delivery so unconventional that had Hosmer himself stunned. The Padres won't make the playoffs this year, but I think they can at times frustrate their division rivals in their own pursuits for the postseason. The future in San Diego is certainly bright. Come 2020, they'll be knocking on the door.
Don't worry, Pops. We're almost across the street.
Giants fans, I know it's an even year, and you already won't shut up about it. I, however, have no shame in predicting that despite all the offseason moves, San Francisco will be eliminated from wildcard contention in the final 2 weeks of the season. There are far too many players that need to bounce back, and a lot of them are vets in their early to mid-30s. Now this season, the Giants have the second oldest average age roster in the league, and they gave up top prospect Christian Arroyo in the Evan Longoria trade. If they fail to make the playoffs this year, the even-year magic is probably gone. As for playoff predictions, I see the Nationals, Cubs, and Dodgers all winning their respective divisions for the third straight year. The wildcard race will be tense and come down to the final days of the regular season, where the Diamondbacks will make it back again, and the Cardinals sneak in with the second spot. As much as I want to put the Mets in, I'm still too skeptical because of the health risks to a lot of their players. Well, that does it for the National League. See you guys for part 2 on the AL.